Hello there, and welcome once again to the Time Machine with Trish and Mike. I'm Mike.
And I'm Trish.
And we're glad you're with us once again. How are you, Trish?
Hey, Mike, I'm doing good. How about you?
I am doing good. I am doing good. Before we get too deep into the show today, though, I want to make a couple of plugs because both of us were actually on separate podcasts these past couple weeks. Friend of the show, Castellone Cosplay, had started a new show called Creators Corner with Castellone Cosplay, and I was his first guest. So you can check that out on your favorite podcast platform.
Yeah, I just saw that he was added to Apple. So
good.
It's all the major ones, I think.
Good. And you were able to get reunited with Andy.
I was,
podcast.
Andy and I were guests on Geeks Opinionated, and we were actually the first guest that they've ever had on their podcast. They have quite a few episodes, but they had never interviewed anyone before on their show. So that was really cool. It was really fun.
Very, very nice. Okay, so if you get tired of listening to the two of us talking to each other, but you still want to hear us talk and you can't get enough of us, check those shows out and hear our appearances hear our episodes on those shows.
Yeah, I really liked yours. I listened to it all, and it was just nice to hear about all the different hobbies that you have going on.
Oh, thank you. It was
your cosplay, your photography. It was nice to hear about our own show on a different show. That was kind of funny.
It's kind of, was it like meta or whatever? It's like I'm talking about our podcast on a different podcast, to which I'm plugging that podcast on this podcast.
It all comes back around.
Yes, it does. What else comes back around, though, every year is a calendar.
Yeah,
anniversary.
That is true.
And kind of how this whole show is formed. It's around anniversaries because we go week to week through history. And this is the fun week in 2020 when stuff kind of started getting real.
Can we say fun with quotation marks?
We can say, okay. I can think of another F word, but we'll go with fun.
We'll go with fun. Yeah.
We'll go with fun because this is a family friendly show. So March 11th, 2020, the NBA indefinitely suspended their season after Rudy Gobert tested positive for COVID-19 prior to the tip-off of a Utah Jazz-Oklahoma City Thunder game. So that was really kind of the tipping point. I think that we all eventually knew I don't want to say we eventually knew was going to happen, but we knew something was going to happen at some point that was going to say, okay, we have to take this thing a little more seriously than we had been. And that was kind of it. And the NBA shut down, the NHL shut down, spring training baseball shut down, NASCAR shut down, school shut down. I'm just thinking of all the sports because that was like the first wave was all the sports. And then all concerts and stuff said, okay, well, we can't have large crowds. And that basically kind of did us. Of course, at the time, we were just thinking maybe a few months or maybe till the fall or something. But
well, even some people were optimistic and they're like, it'll just be 2 weeks, just 2 week shutdown. Get this contained, deal with it.
I still contend that if we had done a legit hard, we're going to give y'all a week to get your stuff together, you know, or maybe a week and a half or 2 weeks or something, like give people time to prepare so you can go to the store, so the stores can get the inventory and that you can go stock up.
Yeah, and then just shut it all down, like hard shut.
Do a hard shutdown. Nobody go anywhere. And okay, we can get into the debate of freedom and rights. And I'm saying in a hypothetical world, if we could have, if we could have done that and done a hard shutdown, nobody goes anywhere for let's say 3 weeks to be safe.
Right.
You eliminate anybody out there with the virus walking around. And again, in a perfect world. Then you could open back up, we're fine, and you just test anybody that's coming into the country before they come into the country. And then if nobody here has it, and you don't let anybody bring it in, we don't have it, and we've eliminated it.
Yep. Well, and that's what they ended up doing in some countries overseas, right?
Yeah.
And now New Zealand has concerts. I mean, it's
Yeah.
It's obviously easier when you're on an island.
Oh,
You
sure.
can
You don't have as
control
many
what,
people coming and going from the
yeah.
island. Things are kind of back to normal down there for the most part.
Yeah, for the most part. I mean, I know Australia a few weeks ago, maybe 2 weeks ago, went through a 10-day shutdown, but then they're back to normal again. They had one case in Melbourne, I believe. I'd have to double check, but then the government shut them down for 10 days and now they're, like I said, going about their business.
Yeah. Like I know this past weekend, they had a Comic Con in Sydney, Australia.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's like there's kind of some degree of normalcy
hmm
that we
I'm
will.
sure there's obviously still some rules in place or just extra sanitization happening, but
Yeah.
for the
And
most part, fairly normal.
that should be a thing anyway.
It
Like,
should be a thing anyway. If you think about all the gross things we used to do, it's like,
yes.
oh, buffets, horrifying.
Oh, there are some things like there are some good things that are going to come out of COVID.
Yes. Yeah.
And increased sanitation and sanitizers and like some of the stuff I'm good with.
Yeah. And I'm introverted by nature. So I'm happy to be like 6 feet, 2 meters away from people. I'm like, yeah, I like my space.
I do
Thank you.
too. I'm going to be fine if we don't have to stay 6 feet from someone or follow markings on the floor, but maybe just some common courtesy. Like if you could stay 2 to 3 feet away from me instead of like
Yeah.
18 inches, I would be happy.
Yeah. Common courtesy will be a big thing. I think that's going to come out of all of this.
Yeah, let's hope at least.
Let's hope. People just being more mindful, maybe.
Or I like being in a restaurant and not being able to hear the table next to me's conversation.
Yes, I like that too.
I like that.
Because where were you when it all went down?
So this was March 11th, was when the NBA shut down. So 3 days prior to that, I was at the Florida Strawberry Festival at so it's like a festival they do every year, obviously based around strawberries. Because
I'm going to say this sounds delightful. But
it is. It's fun. You should if you're March is like a good time for you to come down here anyway.
It is. I do have March break.
You do. It's not too hot usually, and it gets you out of the cold Canadian winters that you're still struggling through. Like we have strawberry shortcake, and it's a good stuff. But one of the big things they do there's concerts every night, and so they had Leonard Skinner in concert, and they're kind of on their they were on their farewell tour. It was the last night of the festival, and so I'm in they have like an outdoor amphitheater, which probably seats, I'm guessing 8,000 to 10,000 people.
Oh, wow.
Which right now, as we record this, sounds crazy to have all people inches away from you. It's like we're doing some events now where you have 8,000 to 10,000 people in a 50,000 seat stadium. But it was weird because at one point me and my mom were talking when we were eating curly fries or something before the show. And it was like, what if somebody here has it? I mean, how could they be spreading it around? Like you spread it to this person, this person, this person, and contact tracing wasn't a thing. How quickly could it
be? Yeah.
Right. Because this was really before we kind of knew the full extent of what we were up against. So it's kind of crazy to have had something like that so close to when things shut down. I mean, it was days later, and it's like if somebody at the festival had it, they could have spread it to thousands of people. And
it would have been awful.
Yeah. How about you, Trish? Did you do something somewhat recently before everything shut down?
Yeah, like just before March 11th, the weekend before, we had the Oil Kings, which is the farm team for the Edmonton Oilers, and they had their superhero night. And Andy actually debuted her Spider-Gwen cosplay at that event. And the same thing, there had been one person in Alberta at that time that had tested positive. They were visiting from Wuhan. And so you think, oh, it's just one isolated case. But at a hockey game with, thousands upon thousands of people, and it was all families with their little kids. And you think, yeah, one person had it, right? How would that have affected the city of Edmonton at that point in time?
Yeah.
So that's kind of crazy to think about. We also had a school field trip. We were taking our elementary and junior high to the Royal Alberta Museum and the Alberta Legislature, so our political center. And again, some parents had actually pulled their kids by that point, because it was on the 11th that we took them. So parents had pulled, and some people were wearing masks on the bus, some people weren't. We're all really close together. It was kind of freaky. And then my ex-husband and I were also trying to decide, once everyone was really starting to talk about it, and you're having the cancellations of the sports and all that.
Mhm.
Our daughter turned 10 on the 12th. So we were like, do we cancel her birthday party? Or we were having the birthday party on the 13th. We're like, do we cancel it? Do we call the parents? Like, what do we do? And it was such a weird situation to go through, right? Now it seems so normal. You're like, of course we wouldn't have a party, and of course we'd stay away from people. But
well, it's like
a year ago.
I remember the first, I guess it was maybe that next weekend or whatever, I went to Target or something. And not everybody's wearing masks because it wasn't a thing that we were being told to do, but some people were just kind of voluntarily doing it. And it was just weird at first. Now it's gotten to be normal to see people wearing masks in stores, but it was just so like, this is different. Like, we have not faced this before. It
almost felt like you were in not to compare to a zombie apocalypse, but like the beginning of that strange feeling when you're watching the movie and the main character is noticing the changes and you're like, oh, I don't like this. And I remember the first time going to the grocery store after we had our hard lockdown here and going and I would stock up for 2 weeks so I wouldn't have to go. And just like the stress of going into the store and like you're almost having an anxiety attack, just staying away from people, making sure you had all your supplies, like such a weird feeling.
And hoping the store had what you needed.
Yes.
Because
and that,
the initial
I actually
surge,
like that though.
Yeah.
Right? Where you would notice like the first week or whatever it was when the toilet paper, everyone was hoarding toilet paper, but then it became like yeast, and then it was pasta, and then it was like, it would be a certain weird vegetable or spice. And I loved the one thing I liked about the store was going and seeing what exactly people were interested in and what was gone. I thought that was really fun.
Yeah. I mean, like here in Florida, we're kind of used to having empty shelves at times, especially when hurricanes are coming, because people will go buy water and bread and stuff. And then kind of post-hurricane, especially if we had issues with power being out at stores and stuff, it may take a week or so for like meats and hot dogs or cold cuts or something to kind of come back. So you're kind of used to seeing some empty spots in stores, but that's where you can bring supplies in from another state. Like, okay, if we had a hurricane here, we're out of water, you can truck in some water from Alabama or Georgia, something to help kind of replenish our stock. But when it's everyone, it was the whole country. So it wasn't like we could go to a nearby state and say, hey, give us some toilet paper. They're like, we don't have any to give you.
Well, it was like empty pallets at Costco, right? You're just like, what the hell? Like, where's all the supplies? I still want to know who has all the toilet paper.
You know, somebody still has toilet paper that they bought when
from
this started.
This
a year
day,
ago. Yeah. Somebody has bought enough toilet paper. They have not had to buy any in the last year.
No. I mean, it doesn't go bad, so.
I mean, it's true.
I guess.
I mean, because I will typically buy it in bulk anyway, because it is cheaper, and I mean, you're gonna use it eventually. It doesn't expire. So, like, I'm the one that buys the 36 roll pack or the 48 roll pack or whatever. Like, that's just what I do. And thankfully, I had maybe a couple of weeks before had gotten one, so I didn't have to worry for a while. And then I want to say it was getting towards maybe.
How anxious would you feel if you were getting down to the last roll and there's like no toilet paper anywhere?
That was my thing. I was starting to get low. I wasn't in any sort of critical situation, but I was like, I'd like to get some more if I can find some. And then I wound
Please and thank you.
Right. And then I wound up going into a store and they had like the really cheap stuff, like the stuff that you probably normally don't buy because it's just not good, but it's toilet paper. And we didn't know how long it was going to take to get, a consistent supply back. So I'm like, I'll take a little bit of this because at least I'll got something.
Well, in some of my mom's groups, they would update you. They'd be like, oh, this Costco in this side of the city has it. Run.
I literally messaged a friend of mine because it was a store not too far from his house. I said, hey, by the way, the store has toilet paper. And he's like, seriously, because we're down to like 2 rolls. And I'm
Oh,
like,
no.
go, they have some now. So he was able to go
Desperate
for
times.
so he was able to go get some. But yeah. So
Yeah.
we're a year into this thing.
Yeah, well, on our news just I don't know, like last week, they were saying now that they expect every Canadian who wants a vaccine to now suddenly we're going to have it by the end of June. So fingers crossed that their plan works.
Yeah,
But
that's
we've had
encouraging.
plans in the past that haven't. So
Yeah. Well, I think the biggest issue is just supply, because really this comes down to a manufacturing issue. You have to be able to manufacture it, and then a logistics issue to distribute it to the state, or in your case, to the province. Because I'm not sure how it's working up there. I'm guessing it's being controlled by
yeah, so health is a provincial, so it's
Okay.
federally mandated, and then each province is able to control how they do their rollout.
And that's kind of how it is here. Now, we do have some sites, like they opened a FEMA site here that's ran by the U.S. military.
Right.
That is being done was originally going to vaccinate. The rules change sometimes.
That's the problem. The rules
There's a
change
bit
so
of confusion
quickly.
because it's like you can go to one site and we're only doing, 65 and up here, or first responders or something. But then this site's like, well, we'll take anybody under 65 here with a doctor's note. So it's, I don't know, but we're being told that probably by May at the latest, this will be likely opened up to everybody here that wants to get one that hasn't gotten one yet. So it's still going to take a while just to get through it, to get it, to people. I think the biggest key will be when it's available at every grocery store and pharmacy here, kind of like how you can go in typically, at least here, I don't know how it is up there.
And get your flu shot.
You could go typically get your flu shot at your local drugstore or something. And I think once it gets to that point here, again, with scheduling it, so it's like you may have to wait another couple of weeks, but at least you can get it scheduled.
Yeah, that's not too bad.
I think
I'm
once
okay
we get
with
there,
having at least an appointment date.
Yeah, I think that will go a long way to getting us back to normal, or getting it done quicker, rather.
Right. Yeah. So, there's pros and cons to leadership, but.
Yes. And that takes us to well, I was going to say it takes us to our first story, but I guess that technically was our first item for the week. Ironically enough, March 11th, which is the day everything shut down, 1933, President Roosevelt began his Fireside Chat series, to where his Fireside Chats was a series of evening radio addresses that he would give to the public, because again, we're talking the 30s, TV, not really a thing, so it's pretty much radio, but it was an opportunity for the president to speak directly to the people. And so he would give these not really speeches, more, I guess technically they're speeches, but his vision for this was, imagine me sitting there at the fireplace next to you having a conversation.
Right. It sounds very cozy and calming.
Right. And that was what his goal with this was. So he would have these throughout the years talking about the Great Depression, the Emergency Banking Act that came into response to a lot of the bank crisis. That was really the one going on in 1933 that really prompted him to come on and do these. And obviously, as World War II happened, he would talk to the American people about that and our response and what we were doing and everything. So it's believed that about 60 million people listened to the first one.
That's like
that he did.
Huge chunk of people.
Yes, that is. Because I don't know off the top of my head what the U.S. population back in the 30s was, but it definitely wasn't the 300 plus million that we have now.
Well, according to my very quick Google search, in 1930, there was 123.1 million.
123 million?
Yeah, that's what it says.
In 90 years, we have more than doubled our population.
Yeah.
And it's believed that over 62 million listened to his Fireside Chat on December 9th, 1941, 2 days after the attack on Pearl Harbor.
Well, and I guess you have to factor in how many people could afford a radio at that time.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Well,
and
a lot of people had
were,
them. Yeah. I don't know how affordable they were, but you got to figure a lot of people had them.
But sometimes you would join together at other people's houses, right? So there could be way more than that.
Right. And the practice would be revived under President Reagan. Back in 1982, he would begin doing weekly radio addresses, and that tradition would continue throughout his presidency. And President George H.W. Bush and President Clinton would also continue to do them, although not always necessarily every week, but most weeks they would do them. President George W. Bush became the first president to deliver them in English and Spanish. The radio address would also be available as a podcast.
Oh,
because
really
that was kind of at the time when podcasting started to become a thing. And under the Obama administration, it became a video address as well. So it would be like on YouTube or something.
Mm-hmm. So there was about 40 years where no president did it.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's revived in the 80s.
Correct.
Interesting.
Yeah. And under the Trump administration, they continued it for a while, and then just for whatever reason, they stopped doing them. And President Biden has revived the tradition as well.
We'll see how long it goes.
Mm-hmm. So he has a weekly conversations series that he does where he takes questions from concerned citizens.
I do like that because I feel like, one,
it's calming.
It's calming to have your leader stand there and say, hey, everything's going to be okay. And what are your concerns? And it's very transparent, right?
Yeah.
You're able to kind of, you're not there physically questioning them about what's going on, but there's a way of communication. I like that.
Yeah.
And that leads us into our next story, which involves Pope Francis being elected the leader of, obviously, the Catholic Church, all the Catholics in the world. You know, a different form of leader, but leader nonetheless. Do you know, Mike, how one becomes Pope?
I'm going to get the verbiage probably wrong on this, but basically a gathering of priests or there's some title for these people. I know they gather at they gather in Rome and they vote. And when their ballots are cast and they count the votes and then they throw them in an incinerator to burn them, and there's black smoke that comes out. But eventually, once they pass enough votes that this person is elected Pope, white smoke begins to come out and we have a new Pope.
Yeah. So
I got some of that right.
You got some of that right.
Okay.
They meet in the Vatican, which is technically Vatican City is its own country.
Correct. That's true. I apologize. I should have not, because it's one of three.
That's a technicality.
Oh, it's one of three city-states in the world. There's the Vatican, there's Singapore, and Monaco.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
so you did get some of it right, though.
There. Yeah.
So in order to become Pope, first you have to be born male.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be one of 1 million Catholics, roughly.
Okay.
You go to school, you get an education, you become one of 400,000 priests.
Okay.
You continue to lead your, they have a different hierarchy in the Catholic Church. So you have a parish church and then an archdiocese, or a diocese and then an archdiocese. And
bishop,
anyway,
that was the word I was trying to think of. The different bishops gather.
So then you have to become one of 500 bishops.
Okay.
And then when you wear the bishop hat, right, when you're in that role in the Catholic Church, you can be a bishop and a cardinal, but it's the same person. It's not like you have cardinals and then bishops. Cardinals and bishops are the same. So you become one of 500 bishops who then gets one of these 200 titles to become a cardinal. You have to wait for the Pope to die or retire, which hasn't really happened a lot, but happened obviously with Pope Francis's election.
Ascension, yeah.
Yeah, ascension. Ooh, sounds very like fanciful.
Yeah, you're welcome.
And then you have to convince 2/3 of your peers to elect you. So once they reach that 2/3 threshold, that's when they'll burn the votes and have the white smoke come out of the chimney in the Vatican.
Okay, so I got the process mostly
right. Yeah, you got
right.
the process.
You were looking for more of the actual qualifications, which I totally blew over that part.
Well, to be fair, I was like born and raised Catholic, so this is kind of old hat for me. Yeah. And I worked in a Catholic school division when this happened, and I actually got to go on global news here for our school board and talk about Pope Francis and why he likely picked his name and all that kind of fun stuff.
Oh,
and
nice.
I lost my marbles because growing up on the East Coast, every Sunday night we would get cartoons from the Edmonton station. So Edmonton, in my mind as a small child, was like the coolest place you ever wanted to go because it had the West Edmonton Mall. And Mike Sobel, who is now our weatherman at Global Edmonton, he used to be the host of this children's show. And you would have Duckwing Duck and the Rescue Rangers and all those fun TV shows. And I got to meet him at the news station. And
Wow.
I totally started to have like an anxiety attack meeting just this weatherman. But anyway, it was pretty fun. So for me, this information's a little bit, comes more naturally. But technically, any baptized Catholic man can become a pope. But the church has followed this system of title and hierarchy since 1271.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm going off on a tangent here for a second. We were talking about meeting Mike from
Mike
Global.
Sobel.
It reminded me of Emma Coburn. She was a track athlete and an Olympian. And in 2016, she won a bronze medal. And so she got to go on, because here, like in America, NBC carries the Olympics and Bob Costas hosts a lot of the coverage. So like if you watch the Olympics in America, you know who Bob Costas is. And so she got to be interviewed by him, and she spent like half the interview freaking out about the fact that she was being interviewed. She's like, I grew up watching you and dreaming of this moment. It's like winning the gold medal or the bronze medal. You know, I've won an Olympic medal and now I'm being interviewed by Bob Costas. Like, is this really happening?
That is so cute. I love that. Aww. Yeah, it was kind of, it's ridiculous when you have those moments though, right? But
yeah, no, it's so cool,
cute.
Though.
I love it.
Yeah.
This whole thing happened because of Pope Benedict XVI deciding to resign. So he resigns on the 28th of February, 2013. And after 115 participating cardinal electors were gathered, they set on March 12, 2013 as the beginning of their conclave. So they actually thought this meeting, this conclave, was going to take quite a while. So the fact that it doesn't, you could tell that these people, the leaders of the church just were like, let's get on it. We know who we need. On the fifth ballot, the conclave is going to elect Cardinal George Mario Bergoglio, who is the Archbishop of Buenos Aires, and he takes the pontifical name of Francis. Now, we've had 3 popes in our history resign. Pope Celestine V in 1294, Pope Gregory XII in 1415, and then Pope Benedict XVI in 2013. So 598 years between the last one and Pope Benedict.
Wow.
Unlike the other 2 popes, though, Benedict wasn't forced to resign. He actually did it out of his own free will.
How do, because you said it was on the 5th round of voting that he secured enough votes. Do they just keep voting throughout the day, or is it like 1 vote a day? Or do
there
we know how that works?
2 votes per day.
Okay.
And in between the votes, there's like prayer and fasting, and they can kind of talk to one another. Yeah. And he was like, I don't really want it. But same Pope Benedict didn't want it either. I remember when he was elected, I was late for my Spanish test final exam that I failed at St. Francis Xavier University. And I was waiting for the smoke to come out of the chimney. But yeah, like they both are kind of like, you know, they didn't really feel that they were maybe the best fit. Like Benedict XVI totally recognized that he was kind of the old guard of the Catholic Church, and that for the church to really thrive in modern society, you needed someone who was going to be a bit more progressive. Pope Francis didn't want the job because he's very humble. He's kind of shy. And he, as a Franciscan, just really wanted to live a life of service to other in very meaningful ways. So like he still sneaks out of the Vatican to try and go to like soup kitchens to serve people stuff, like serve their food. And the Swiss guards that are in place in the Vatican City to guard him like hate it, right? You don't want a pope just sneaking off on you. So he didn't really feel like he was the best fit either. But I personally feel like he's done a very good job of navigating the changes that we see slowly happening. Change happens very, very, very slow in the Catholic Church. So it's going to take quite a while before we see some of the changes that I know a lot of people are looking forward to seeing.
Yeah, no, I think he's from what I see of him, he seems to be doing a good job.
Mm-hmm. Well, and there's some interesting things where people wouldn't put this and the Pope together, right? So some interesting facts about Pope Francis. He actually has a chemical technician's diploma, and he worked as a chemical technician. He's also been a bar bouncer and a janitor who has swept floors. I'm like, really? This Pope was a bouncer?
Right? He's not the biggest guy. I mean, granted, I wouldn't expect him to still be like built, but I mean, do we have photos of this?
I don't know if there is photos, but I think that would be hilarious. And if there is photos, we need to track them down.
Yes. Okay.
When he was 21 years old, he suffered from life-threatening pneumonia and almost passed away. And he developed 3 cysts on his lungs. So they actually have part of his lung is removed because they needed to save his life.
Okay. I think I remember hearing that at some point about the pneumonia. Okay.
He is a fan of the films of Tito Morello. He loves neo-realism and tango dancing, and he has a fondness for the traditional music of Argentina and Uruguay, known as, and please forgive me if I mispronounce it, but milonga.
The tango thing makes sense because he's from Argentina.
Yeah, and what's really interesting is he's kind of the perfect bridge between Europe, because he was the first non-European
South American Pope, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and his father is actually Italian, and his mother was born in Buenos Aires, but to Italian parents. Okay. So he's kind of this perfect, like, yes, he has Italian heritage, but he was born and raised in Buenos Aires and the culture and all of that, right? So it's just this kind of perfect mixture for needing a pope that's kind of from the New World.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah. And he took the name St. Francis after St. Francis of Assisi, who is the patron saint of animals.
And that's where St. Francis University. No.
Well, where my university is St. Francis Xavier.
Okay.
Yeah. So he was a missionary over in Asia.
Okay. So I totally botched that. Great. Good job. I did fabulous on that.
Hey, so maybe your skill set is not the Catholic Church. We at least know my skill set is not math.
Fair enough. Although you
or
did
spelling or reading.
You did get the math question right in less than 5 minutes a couple weeks ago.
That was good.
I declared it. So just saying, your math is getting better. Maybe
you're teaching me.
Hey, I'll teach you American math. Boy, wouldn't that be something if math was like, because math is a universal language. Like,
but even then, well, yes, but even then we have imperial versus metric.
Right, but I mean,
conversions.
Like, if you're looking at raw numbers, like $2 is not 2 Canadian dollars, is not 2 yen. I get that.
Yes.
But 2 plus 2 equals 4, regardless of where you're at. You know, like if I have 4 Reese cups and you want me to give you 2, I know how many that is to give you. You're
Which is so funny because we say Reese's.
No, whatever. But you know what I mean? Like, could you imagine if math was different? What if my 2 was your 3 or something? Like, that would be insane.
That'd be too confusing. It's already confusing enough.
Something else that was confusing and that people probably prayed a lot for, well, not prayed for, but prayed because of, was the March 13th, 1993 storm of the century.
Yeah, also known as the Superstorm or the No-Name Storm or the Great Blizzard of 93. It has a lot of names.
Yes, it does. And it earned every single one of them.
Every single one of these.
For you kids who may not have been around when this thing happened or have just somehow forgotten about it, in which case I question where you lived at the time because you probably didn't live through it. It was this big storm. So basically you had what was, in a sense, a tropical storm forming in the Gulf of Mexico coming off the Texas Panhandle. Mm-hmm. Okay, so you have like this low pressure system with like 50 like tropical storm force winds, squally weather, and it winds up merging with this cold front moving down from Canada. Thanks, Canada.
Sorry, polar vortex. We don't like them either.
And it just created basically this perfect storm, which ironically was the name of a a storm back in 1991. But
I was
you
gonna say 2 years prior.
right, you basically just had this conglomerate of the super cold air with this warm tropical air, and it wound up merging and created just this mass of weather all the way from Nova Scotia all the way down to Honduras. Like if you look at this on a map, it points this thing spreads out that far. And so down here in Florida, we had a lot of heavy rain, a lot of strong winds. It was like a rough night. Now you get further north to like Alabama and Georgia, they were getting 35, 40 inches of snow there.
That's a lot. Yeah,
and
for
then,
there.
Right.
Already a lot
That's
in
a lot
general.
for anybody, but especially for like 'cause in the South, you don't typically get these massive blizzards like that.
Right.
And obviously, as it got up north to New England and up into Atlantic Canada, the blizzards were even worse. You were getting some parts up to 40 or 50 inches of snow up there.
I remember because I would have been in grade 2, because it was 92, 93. So I would have been in grade 2. I remember we had like a week off school, and I live out in the rural area, and we would be jumping off of our deck into the snow, and there was barely like maybe a foot from like our deck onto the snow when normally there would be like 5 feet. And we dug out massive kind of igloo type structures. And my brothers and I had a blast. We didn't realize, well, maybe my oldest brother, Norman, because he's 9 years older, would have realized kind of how serious this storm was. I couldn't actually find any statistics on how many Canadians were affected, but I did find that in America, it said 40% of your country's population experienced effects of the storm, and we had a total of 208 fatalities in the U.S.
Yeah, it was a very wide-ranging storm because it covered basically the entire eastern seaboard.
Yeah, 10 million
North
households
America.
lost power.
Yeah.
Like, that's a lot of people without power.
That is a lot. Although, yeah, it's a lot of people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I did find another interesting, I mean, aside from the storm going between our two countries, another interesting Canada-US connection. There was actually a cargo ship called the Gold Bond Conveyor, which was en route from Halifax, Nova Scotia to Tampa, Florida. So I was like, oh, this is kind of interesting between the two of us.
Connects us, yeah.
Right. And it really tragically, about 60 nautical miles southeast off the coast of Sable Island, they went down because of the storm, and all 33 members of the crew were lost at sea. Yeah. Yeah, they actually thought that the water came in through the hold where there was gypsum being stored, and it caused the rock to shift and harden. And that instability with the winds of over 90 miles an hour, 145 kilometers an hour, and 100-foot or 30-meter waves led to this sinking. And it did then change how cargo was placed within the ship, and how to handle different like cargo like gypsum.
Weight
so something good came out of it.
Stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good. That just shows you, as one thing we've learned throughout these different disasters we've covered on the show, is we learn. And that's the most, I mean, it's tragic when any sort of situation like this happens, but at least by learning from these things, it's not been in vain. At least something good has come from it. Even like we've kind of just touched on earlier at the beginning of the show with COVID, even though, you know, it's not been a good year, we've learned things that we can do forward.
Oh, yeah. And going forward, there'll definitely be changes in societies going forward from learning from all of this. Yep.
Well, you know what? A good thing to do while you're sitting there without power in this blizzard would be to eat all your Girl Scout cookies.
Yeah, because those aren't going to go bad. You don't have to worry about opening the fridge for those.
Yeah. I've still got a couple boxes left of mine.
After researching the differences between Girl Guides of Canada and Girl Scouts of America and your cookie differences, I am extremely jealous. Like ridiculously jealous.
We do have some good flavors down here.
You got some amazing flavors. Right. So it all began in 1909 when girls in England demanded to take part in Boy Scout rallies organized by Lord Baden-Powell at the Crystal Palace in London. Baden-Powell was impressed, and he asked his sister Agnes to create a program just for girls. And this is the beginning of guiding. By 1910, the guiding movement had reached Canada, and the first unit was actually formed in St. Catharines, Ontario. By 1912, there were units in every province, and many of Canada's most forward-thinking women banded together to form what's known as the Canadian Girl Guides Association. So there's different scouting organizations all over the world. I thought it was interesting with how the Girl Scouts in America had kind of changed from this original group. So Girl Scouts of the United States of America, or commonly referred to as just Girl Scouts, ended up being founded by Juliette Gordon Low in 1912. So 2 years after Girl Guiding in Canada is happening. She met Robert Baden-Powell, obviously the founder of Scouting, in 1911. And upon her return to Savannah, Georgia, she telephoned a cousin saying, I've got something for the girls of Savannah and all of America and all of the world, and we're going to start it tonight. And so on March 12th, 1912, Juliette Gordon Low organized the very first Girl Guide troop meeting of 18 girls in Savannah, Georgia. And it's now grown to 3.7 million members in the United States. It did change its name officially in 1913 to Girl Scouts of the United States, and it moved its headquarters to Washington, D.C. So I thought, and looking at our different populations, so Canada has just under 77,000 members. In the U.S., you have 2.5 million Girl Scouts. 1.7 million are girl members, and 750,000 are adult members who volunteer.
Like chapter leaders?
Leaders, just volunteers. So in Canada, this is going to make you so sad. I used to be involved in Girl Guides. I had little cousins who were in it, so I was a leader. I was elf owl because the leaders are all known as different owls. We have Sparks and Brownies and then Girl Guides. So this is Brownies. But we only have 2 kinds of cookies in Canada. We have the classic chocolate and vanilla or sandwich cookies that you can get in the spring.
Like Oreo, basically?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then chocolate mint cookies available in the fall, which are the best. I love the mint ones.
That's it?
That's it. And our cookies are $5 a box or $3.95 US. You guys have a whopping 12 different flavors.
We do. We have a lot. So we have
so many.
Yeah, we have.
Can you list them all, Mike?
Oh, okay. See, now here's I'm assuming you're asking me that because you have a list in front of you.
I have a list in front of me, yes.
So now, does the list have both names? Because we have some cookies. Yeah. Okay, all right.
Yeah, so you have 12 flavors, but you're right. Some of the flavors have double names.
Right, because there are 2 bakeries that produce them, and I'm totally blanking on the name of the bakeries. One is like ABC Bakery, and one is something else. And so depending on what part of the country you live in, you get different cookies. So my personal favorite is a caramel delight or
those
caramel
looked amazing.
Delight. And in other parts of America or in the US, they're called Samoas. And there are differences between the cookies. One have more of a little bit of a thicker cookie to it and a darker chocolate. And so there are differences even between the two. So those are my favorite. I love them. So it's basically like a shortbread cookie with caramel and coconut on them and little chocolate.
The pictures look so good when I was researching.
They are good. Keebler here in the U.S., I don't think they make them in Canada.
No, we don't have.
Makes a knockoff version called Coconut Dreams. So those are pretty good.
I did grow up watching the Keebler Elves commercials, and I thought they were adorable as a child.
Let's see. What else do we have? So we have Caramel Delight Samoas. We have Thin Mints. We have peanut butter patties. We have the lemon something. I forget what they're called. Lemon, help me out.
Oh, I was like, are you trying to do it? Lemon ups and lemonades.
Lemonades, yeah. Lemonades is what we have here. Did I say s'mores yet?
Nope, you did not.
Okay. And then there's the new French toast yay that just came out this year. I haven't tried those yet. I know somebody's screaming at their
You're like, you're missing my favorite
headphones.
one.
Right. And I know it's an obvious one, and I'm just not thinking which one it is.
Do you want me to go through them?
Sure. Which one? How many have I not got yet?
You had quite a few. I'm thinking you missed. Well, I don't know if you because you said the caramel delights and the Samoas.
Yep.
Are like shortbread.
Yeah.
But there is one
and
that's
there's a shortbread cookie as well. Yes.
Trefoils.
Trefoils. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Then there's the peanut butter patties or the tagalongs.
Tagalongs. Yep. Peanut butter patties, what we know them as. Yeah.
Do-si-dos or peanut butter sandwich.
Oh yeah.
The toffee-tastic. Caramel chocolate chip. You said the s'mores. Mm-hmm. So there's Girl Scout s'mores, and then there's like Girl Scout s'mores chocolate covered variety.
And then in some, depending again, it goes back to the two bakeries. Some bakeries don't make both cookies. So like that one you just said, like we don't have that here. The toffee-tastic one. Oh, I don't believe we have that here in Florida.
Now, and your boxes sell for $5 a box, so just like us. But if we were going to pay for them in Canada, it would be $6.33.
Exchange rate gets you every time, doesn't it?
Every time. Oh, I remember back when the Canadian dollar was above the American dollar, and boy, was that a good time.
You know what else is good? Is Chick-fil-A. And
I don't know that it's good.
I know, because you don't have Chick-fil-A in Alberta, and I feel bad for you. And S. Truett Cathy, the founder of Chick-fil-A, was born on March 14th, 1921. So if he passed away a few years ago, so he would be 100 this week.
Yeah, that's kind of cool.
That's kind of cool. So he's the guy that started Chick-fil-A. Started as a small little restaurant in Hapeville, Georgia, just a little bit south of Atlanta. And started as the Dwarf House. That was the name of it. And in fact, there's a little small miniature door that you can go through. They have regular size doors as well that you can go through. And it's more like a diner. Like the menu there is different. They have things like a lemon pie on the dessert menu. They have hamburgers. Of course, they have the regular Chick-fil-A stuff as well that you know from the normal restaurant. Right, because then
Chick-fil-A is just more the fast food part, but this particular location has more of a family restaurant feel or diner.
More of a little bit of a diner. There's cool. In fact, they just announced the other week they're closing it down for some remodeling, so it'll be interesting to see how it looks when it's all done. I've actually ate there about 7 years ago. I was up in Atlanta and went there for lunch one day, so it was kind of cool to.
So which was better, the original location or the fast food location?
It was the same chicken, so it was all good.
Oh, it was all good.
Yeah.
I know people talk about it and rave about it, but maybe one day.
One day after COVID, we've got to get you to a Chick-fil-A somewhere in the States.
There's many things in the States I got to try.
Yes, there are. It's an interesting story, the Chick-fil-A, like how the stores have grown, the restaurants have grown. Because when I was a kid, Chick-fil-A was mostly just in mall food courts.
Okay.
Like that was where you would see them most often, was in food courts in a mall.
Not like super appealing.
Well, no, I mean, yeah, but it was just amount of locations is where I'm going with this. And then over time, throughout the 90s and into the 2000s, they began to expand into more of your traditional quick service restaurant, fast food restaurants that you have, like your McDonald's, Wendy's, Burger Kings, etc., with drive-throughs and independent freestanding unit locations. So it's kind of been interesting to see how they've completely shifted their business model to go to the regular, traditional
fast food
setup.
Style. Yeah. Well, I found
and good chicken though.
Well, and speaking of good chicken, I found fast food chicken chains ranked worst to best. Now, I will admit, it clearly favors more of the American chains. There's less, in Canada, we only have so many of these chains that we have access to. There's no Lick-a-Chick on that list. Which
Lick-a-Chick?
Lick-a-Chick is a restaurant just outside of Brador in Cape Breton Island that I grew up driving by all the time to go to my grandparents. And it supposedly has the best chicken around. So
Lick-a-Chick.
If you make your way after COVID to visit Cape Breton, which I'm encouraging everyone to do because it is absolutely beautiful and the people are amazing. And I'm totally biased, I know, But I just think it's one of the most friendly and down to earth places you can go and try out Lick a Chick.
I love that. Like you get that down home kind of.
Yeah, like
Feel.
people they just kind of like Cape Breton is the place where our car broke down, and yes, we're semi-local, but our car broke down over Easter, and in Cape Breton everything is closed like Easter Friday, Easter Monday, and all that over the Easter weekend. And this guy who was a mechanic at a shop just happened to go to a shop to check something out before the Easter break, saw that we were in his parking lot, and just gave my dad his car. Was like, oh, you got to drive to your parents with your children? Here's my car. My dad's like, are you sure? Like, do you want my Visa card? It's like, nah, like, what's your name and phone number? I trust you. So like we drove this man's car to my grandparents, which was 2 hours away. Like,
that's insane. I mean, good for him, but wow.
My poor dad had to drive back and forth, obviously, to get the car fixed over the weekend. But
sure.
Yeah, but that's just, people are just like, oh, you need help? Here you go. Just how it is back east.
And that's kind of how it is at Chick-fil-A. Like there was, like you hear stories of employees doing, not necessarily giving people a car for a 2-hour ride, but just little things that they can do to enhance a customer's experience.
See, and I think that's great because one, you have happy customers, and so then your time at work is happier. Because I used to work fast food. I don't know if you've ever worked fast food.
No, I never. I did retail, but I've never done fast food.
I never wanted to do fast food, but I ended up working at Dairy Queen. And when you have grumpy customers, it is an awful time.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And one thing with Chick-fil-A, I don't know how it is with the restaurants up there, the fast food restaurants, but like I've never seen a Chick-fil-A with less than probably 12 people working at a time. Like,
wow.
They always have people because, sometimes you go to maybe a Burger King or something and there might be like 2 or 3 people at most. Yeah. Chick-fil-A has got people doing
They're
stuff.
Like fully stocked.
They are.
Now, this list, though, that I found that ranked chicken chains worst to best are some I didn't know, but, I'm assuming a lot of people listening will know. So on the worst end of this list is Champ's Chicken.
Never heard of it.
It's gas station and convenience store with 1,500 locations across 40 states. I don't know. Boston Market, also never heard of it.
Boston Market is they do more like home style meals. So you can go get like a turkey and gravy and mashed potato kind of thing, so rotisserie chickens.
Our equivalent then would be Swiss Chalet, which does have good chicken.
Okay, so. I've heard of them. Obviously, I've never had them, but I have heard of them.
Bojangles.
Bojangles was on the worst list?
No, it's now going up. It's going from worst to best.
Okay, because Bojangles is some good stuff.
Some good stuff.
We used to have one down here and it closed, and so now I have to get it in like Georgia or the Carolinas if I want some Bojangles. And gosh, I can't.
It says it has 740 plus locations, so not like a huge amount for.
Yeah, their biscuits. Get some potatoes to go with your chicken.
You have potatoes.
That's what they call them. Yeah,
oh my gosh,
they're like those little flat round hash round kind of things.
Okay, hash
kind of. Well, I don't know what you necessarily like what a hash brown. Not like the shredded hash brown,
like a tater tot.
But think of like a flat tater tot.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, now you might disagree with this then because it has KFC next. Is Bojangles better than KFC?
Bojangles is better than KFC.
Oh. And we have KFC, so
anybody that says KFC is better than Bojangles never had Bojangles.
But don't you think, like, as a child, KFC was child, KFC was better than KFC is now?
Oh,
I swear they've changed the recipe or something.
Yes, that I will agree with. Yeah. KFC, I remember when I was a kid, they had these Chicken Littles, and I love these things. They were almost like little. Well, you don't have Crystal or White Castle up there, but people in America will know what I'm talking about when I say. So there's like these little small square chicken patties is what they were. And White Castle actually has a chicken sandwich kind of like what the Chicken Little was at KFC. But then they brought them back a few years ago, but they're totally different. Yeah, it's more just like a chicken tender and a little bun.
No. Yeah, right? I know. Same thing. Yeah. That brought back a memory.
KFC is on my list anyway, because a few years ago, I ate the crap out of some KFC for a while because they had this Smoky Mountain barbecue chicken tenders.
I don't know if they had that here.
They were on this kick where they had like a Nashville hot chicken, like a sweet Georgia gold, like a more of like a honey mustard based sauce chicken, and then they had the Smoky Mountain barbecue.
See, this must have been an American thing. I don't recall this at all.
Yeah, I don't think that it made it to Canada. This was maybe
nothing makes it to Canada.
This is maybe like 3 years ago, and it was so good. So good. And then they've gotten rid of that, and I don't know why. So if anyone from KFC corporate is listening, bring back the Smoky Mountain barbecue chicken.
Well, then they did that awful double down. Ugh.
Oh yeah, two chicken patties with a piece of cheese between it, or cheese and bacon, or whatever it was. No, I never did that.
Good. Lee's famous recipe chicken. I don't know what that is.
No idea.
It does say it's in Canada, so if any Canadians can help me out, but it says Midwest and South of the U.S. and Canada. It is actually the nephew of Colonel Sanders.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So it's better than KFC.
Yeah. Funny that the nephew obviously learned and adapted the recipe, maybe.
Sure. But it ain't better than Bojangles. No. Right now, Bojangles is the leader. I don't care what
You're like, why
says.
is Bojangles so bad, so close to the bottom? Raising Cane's?
I've never had them, but I've heard they're really good.
It says it's one of the fastest growing restaurant chains in America, and not just chicken restaurants, but all restaurants.
That is a fact, because I work in real estate, and I'm familiar with them, and I believe they're expanding to Florida.
Oh.
But I don't think there's any in my area yet. But whenever there is,
once you get one, you can do a review.
I will be more than happy to do that for you.
Zaxby's? I don't know that one.
Zaxby's is good. So Zaxby's is more of a southern chain in the U.S.
Oh my goodness. Sorry, I just saw like their menu includes salads and zappetizers.
Yes. So they have a lot of Z's on their menus.
Or Zeds.
Mm-hmm. And then they have, so I usually will get like a 3-piece tender. They have crinkle fries, which are really good, crinkle cut fries, and a piece of Texas toast. What I like to do is I'll order an extra piece of toast and I'll make like a sandwich out of my tenders.
Oh.
Which they do have a chicken sandwich on their menu with the Texas toast, but it comes with like some sort of a sauce thing, and it's just easier for me to order an extra piece of bread and make my own
Make your own.
Because rather than getting it plain and then they mess it up, then you got to take it back, and it's like, just
give me the extra bread.
Just give me the extra bread.
Church's chicken? Also not one that I'm familiar with.
I think it's more of a southern U.S. thing. That's pretty good.
Apparently their biscuits are like, really, you've been deprived if you haven't had their biscuits.
You have been, child. I feel sorry for you.
And
we used
then
to have Church's chicken at my high school for a while. We'd get like a 2-piece tender, a biscuit, and a thing of mashed potatoes or something for a couple of like $3 or something.
Now I'm just getting really hungry.
I am too. We should record the show when we're hungry.
There's TKK fried chicken.
No idea.
If you live on the East Coast in Michigan or Texas, then we probably haven't heard of it. But if you live in those areas, you have.
Okay.
It originated in Taiwan. Apparently, It's great. Crispy, crunchy chicken.
That I've had. It's pretty good.
Nope, not. It's found in convenience stores and gas stations like Champs, I guess.
Yeah, there's a gas station not too far from my house that had it. I don't know if they still have it or not, but it was pretty good. Their biscuits were really good.
Jollibee?
We don't have that here, but I've heard of them.
See, we just got them here in Edmonton, and people went bananas for it. I haven't tried it, but I guess I'll have to go. It's out of originally out of the Philippines, and they have banana ketchup.
Ooh.
Apparently, it's a good thing.
You're gonna have to do a review and tell me about that, because
maybe I should.
I'm not so sure.
Yeah, Bonchon.
Not idea.
Another one I'm familiar with. Okay, El Polo Loco.
And all these places were these people have not had Bojangles if all these places are higher than Bojangles. I'm just saying.
Yeah, Wingstop, again, not one I'm familiar with.
Wingstop we have here. I've never had it though.
PDQ.
PDQ's good.
They have 50 locations in the Sunshine State and more than a dozen across New Jersey, New York, and the Carolinas.
That's an interesting business model expansion, but okay.
And then, number 2, Chick-fil-A.
Okay.
Then they have Popeyes.
Popeyes? I was going to Popeyes. That's the only one left.
Yeah.
Okay, then.
So again, a whole whack I've never eaten at or have tried, but I will. I'll endeavor. I'll make like a chicken bucket list for the United States.
When you come to the States, you're just going to eat nothing but chicken.
See, and it's hard because I go to California, right? That's where my boyfriend lives. So I'm all about like the California cuisine there. Okay. I don't think chicken's kind of on the menu.
Okay, so when you come to Florida, this is going to be so backwards. When you come to Florida, we're going to have to take a road trip because there are places that you have to eat at that we don't have here. So, have you heard of Whataburger?
No.
Oh my God, they're we don't have one here. We used to have one, but it closed. So the closest one to me is Jacksonville, which is like 3 hours away.
I don't mind going to Jacksonville. That'd be fun.
It's the only thing in Jacksonville worth going to. But I kid. We there are wonderful people in Jacksonville, but anyway, it's literally whenever I'm going up or down 95, I will time going through Jacksonville for like lunch or dinner or something so I can get Whataburger. Is now, good.
Like I said, now I'm just hungry, and it's like, oh man.
And then my absolute favorite, and I just keep hoping one day they open one down here, is a place called Cookout.
Cookout? Nope, never heard of that one.
Y'all, I am telling you, if you have not experienced Cookout, you have not lived, my friend. Okay, let me tell you. So you get like a burger or a hot dog or whatever, and you get like two sides. And like chicken nuggets are a side item. Okay.
Ooh, so this is a game changer.
You get like a burger, some nuggets, and some fries for like $5. And they have the thickest milkshakes. Like call up the Kelly's or whatever. The milkshake brings all the boys to the yard. Okay. They have the thickest milk. I've literally gotten one in Columbia, South Carolina. And I could not drink this thing till I was almost in North Carolina. That's how thick the shake was.
You had to let it like melt a little?
Yes.
Oh, goodness. That sounds good. Well, then when you come here, you have to try Peter's Drive-In because apparently they have like amazing burgers and milkshakes. I've eaten there. I like it. Mm-hmm. People rave.
I think we need to end this podcast and go eat.
We do.
I'm hungry.
I think our time is up.
Yes.
Ring that dinner bell.
Ring that dinger bell. So
ring that dinger bell.
just don't ring your dinger. Anyway, on that note, we will pitch you and do this week. And I hope that I think I've wished cold fries upon somebody before. If you didn't make it to the end of this episode, but if you didn't make it to the end of this episode, I hope they forget to put your fries in the bag.
Oh, that's the worst. And then your gravy is congealed and cold. You have like no fries.
Oh, that's right. Because you guys do poutine gravy up there. Or is that more of like an East Coast Toronto kind of thing?
Poutine is usually out of Montreal, but it's all over. It's delicious.
And for those that don't know, that's like gravy and cheese curds on fries. Yeah.
You can have fancy ones with lots of other toppings, but that's the traditional.
If you're eating poutine, ain't nobody trying to be fancy about that. I mean, who are you trying to kid? Like you're trying to fancy up poutine.
Oh, it's so good. Speaking of poutine, it was the one thing that when I was expecting Adriana, that she would let me eat. And I had one night class once a week, and I would walk by LA Fries or New York Fries, because we have La Poutine here in Edmonton. I got them mixed. And that was the one thing I would eat. Oh, so good. So anyway, no fries or cold fries and congealed gravy for not making it to the end of the episode.
Exactly. But if you made it to the end, which if you're listening to this, you obviously did, I hope they put extra fries in your bag.
And an extra nuggie.
Extra nuggies are the best.
Mm-hmm.
Have I ever told you, do you have Five Guys up there?
Yep, we have Five Guys.
If you've never been to Five Guys, which they're good, but a little on the pricey side. So they give you, like, if you order fries, you get fries, and then they literally scoop like a scoopful of extra fries in your bag.
It's so good. Surprise fries extreme.
It's like, I'm not kidding you. If you've never been and you go order like if it's say two people, order a small because you will have plenty for two people.
for everyone.
Yeah.
Well, thank you guys so much for joining us. And if you have any questions, concerns, queries, or freakouts, please let us know. We have our Instagram account, our Gmail account, our YouTube channel.
Yes.
You can leave us a message on Anchor.
Yes. The Instagram is at Time Machine with Trish and Mike, and the Gmail address is Time Machine with Trish and Mike at gmail.com.
Yep.
Because you can tell people we have them, but we have to tell them what they actually are.
Well, hopefully you would know from the title of the show. But
Hopefully.
I concur.
It's in the bio. I'm just saying.
And
clicky.
if you could click and subscribe to our YouTube channel, that lets us get our handle up there a little bit easier.
Our goal is to eventually get to have the youtube.com/Time Machine with Trish and Mike before somebody else takes it.
It'd be pretty fancy.
Yeah. So subscribe.
How crazy would that be? A Trish and a Mike from an alternate universe.
It's 2021. After 2020, I don't really rule anything out at this point.
Nothing is impossible anymore.
No.
Have a wonderful week, everyone.
We'll see you next time here on the Time Machine.